Welcome to Rain's World, the podcast where life, development, leadership, growth, intentionality, and experience come into balance right before your very ears. And now, here's your tour guide into Rain's World, the president of Get Life in Balance, Rain Kansman.
All right, here we are with another session of Rain's World. And today I have Ray Jackson as my guest. Hello, Ray.
How are you, Rain?
I'm doing great. Let me introduce Ray to you. Ray's a career development coach whose career success did not come naturally for him. He was passed over twice for a promotion, causing him to check out and hit a low point in his career. Now you fast forward a few years of reinvention and job change, and he was promoted twice in 3.5 years into roles explicitly created for him. The last position was to a leadership role where Ray promoted an employee who was on the verge of quitting the organization. They partnered together to, 1, create our ideal job role, 2, establish her brand, and pitched the idea for promotion to senior leadership. The position was approved. Ray learned from his experiences in an overall career journey to build a career consulting business that teaches ambitious professionals how to achieve their career breakthroughs. So those are things that Ray's now doing with his business. Is it Career Bloom, right?
Correct. Yeah, Career Bloom Consulting.
Yeah, welcome, Ray Jackson.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. So we're going to talk today about, and the topic is a mouthful, but I love it. Okay. Establishing an employee-centered team workplace culture. So what do you mean when you say establishing an employee-centered team workplace culture?
Sure. So one thing I've realized, and I've been working for quite some time, and I've had work environments that I've worked in that were awesome work environments, and I've also had the complete opposite. Right. Okay. And so even though I own my own business currently, I'm also working full-time at the moment. And the best way that I can answer this question is really by providing you with a couple of examples. So I want to kind of allude to where I'm working now and kind of contrast that with places that I've worked at, in the past. And so just to kind of give you an example. So when I say employee-centered, meaning that, to me, establishing an employee-centered team or an employee-centered workplace is really at the core essence of that organization or of that team. The employees really come first. So it's like people over profit or people over process or people over whatever else, that might keep that from being a focal point. And so the company where I am now, they actually put people first. Okay. And just to kind of give you an example, over the past 5 years, actually for the last 5 years, they've won the recognition and award for best places to work. They've also won multiple years as far as, I think, best place to work on Glassdoor as well. And so they have like a whole slew of awards and recognition for the past several years. And, I've worked at places where they didn't even have one type of recognition, let alone multiple years of recognition. So when I saw the opportunity, that's what really resonated with me, was the fact that stood out compared to every advertisement that I saw for a job, or actually it stood out from most companies that I've worked for in the past. And so obviously that that made me curious, and I'm like, okay, so what are these people doing differently than these other organizations? Well, come to find out, the company's been in existence for about 20 years, and the founders, two business partners, as they created this business, from day one, they purposed that culture, meaning the work culture, will be front and center. That's really one of their core values, is really creating, cultivating, and sustaining that culture. So from day one, they knew that in order for them to be successful with this venture that they decided to enter into, that they needed a strong work culture in place to, to ensure that the company continued to grow and also sustain itself. And here we are 20 years later, and it's probably stronger now than ever before. And when I think about the current context that we've lived in over the past year, so this is where I'm going to contrast it to other organizations where, the last job I had, I was laid off, and I wasn't an anomaly. That was really the case for what 30 or 40 million other Americans, where we were all laid off because of the economic impact that COVID-19 had on the economy. Well, this company in that same time frame, they didn't lay off one employee. And as a matter of fact, Brain, this is really interesting because I've never heard this, I've never seen this before, but this company actually has a 6-digit budget, that's annual budget, that's aligned to awarding and recognizing employees. So they allot a 6-figure amount each year for leaders to tap into and either reward or recognize their team at any time. And I've only been there for about a little bit over a month, and I've already received like over I've received some extra perks as far as gift cards, gifts, and everything. And it's not just because I'm a new employee. First of all, I've had jobs where that never even happened, whether I was a new employee or not. And then this is just in their culture. Like my first day getting my laptop and logging in, my very first email was a gift card for Uber Eats. Wow. And I was like, okay, who in the world knew I was starting today? Right. And how do they know that that would be beneficial to me? And it was my boss. And that was her greeting gift to me. And perfect. I'm sharing that. So even in the context of, us working remotely and working from home and not being in the same proximity, yet and still, I've still experienced the benefit of being a part of this culture. And it's just like, I feel it. You know what I'm saying? I feel it. And even though I'm here at the house, it's so prevalent and evident in my daily interactions with my team, with other folks in the organization, as well as the things that I do from day to day. And so the key difference, I think, in my opinion, when you start comparing and contrasting those companies or organizations that put employees first versus those that don't, this is, to me, is like the classic case where no matter what's happening around you, yes, the economy is doing horribly or it's done horribly over the last year, but this company purposed in their hearts that they weren't going to lay off one employee, and they did not do that, and that's amazing. And I'm not going to reveal the company, but let me just provide you with one more example to really show you how this organization is. And so I know, Rain, you and I were talking before this video about where I work. And so this particular company is in the apartment complex business. Okay. So their customer are apartment residents. All right. And people that live in apartments were affected like everybody else, where you have folks that lost their jobs or what have you, and they couldn't keep up with their rent. This company, they did not evict anyone from their, at least to my knowledge, they haven't evicted any one of their residents. And so one other thing is that, to just show you how committed they are to people, they also have an annual budget that they set aside for employees to, those employees that actually work on the apartment complex premises. If they spot a need that their residents might be having, they can use tap into that budget. And it's like, so for example, if they notice that a child that's, living at home or with their family, they might be in need of a backpack or new shoes or clothes or what have you. Well, that apartment complex manager has within her budget to be able to go out and purchase whatever items that family might need or what have you. So that is such a foreign concept in this day and age, but that just shows you the nature of this organization and how strong that work culture is. And so once I came across that, and like I said, even though I haven't been there that long, I truly saw the line of division between a company that puts people first as opposed to those that do not. Another example for those that do not, I'm sure you've heard and you've seen over the years, I'm thinking about the auto industry where, a lot of these companies were putting profit over the safety of their customers or, you know, the people that purchase these cars. So you had cars that were, you know, locking up and people were losing control and they were getting into wrecks, you know, or things were happening sometimes, you know, maybe the car caught on fire and it was just like, we can't explain what's going on. And then, you know, the government starts to investigate and you realize, well, yeah, there were some crucial decisions that were made that put profit over people.
Right.
And guess what? It negatively impacted those businesses. And so hopefully, you know, even though I didn't actually define what I meant, but hopefully by these examples, that can kind of show you the difference between a company that puts people first, or at least has people at the center of the organization, as opposed to those that do not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that, Ray. So here's a couple of things that I heard. And
Okay.
one to me, and I'm in agreement with you. I really think that, you know, profits are an after effect.
Yep.
People make the profits happen. So if we take care of or create that environment for them, which you're talking about, and Ray and I have worked on some projects together, and I know sometimes we were in some places that the stress was just incredible. And Ray's always been professional, but I have not seen him as enthused as he is right now when he's talking about this place. I know, and we got a lot out of you working in those projects then. I can't imagine the output that they're receiving from you because that.
Honestly, Rain, sometimes I feel guilty. I'm like, I can't believe these people. So just to kind of give you an example. So, you know, I love doing video work, video
Right.
editing and things of that nature. My very first project was to edit a couple of videos that they had. Actually, last week we had you know, since everybody's socially distancing and we're working remotely, they have an annual leadership conference that they put on each year for their leaders, and they fly them all into town and they, you know, book a hotel or what have you, and they have the whole big shindig. So this year they had to put all that, you know, online, and they had a virtual conference. So the videos, they had the CEO do a presentation, as well as one of the other senior leaders do a presentation. So they didn't do it live, so they did it pre-recorded.
Right.
So my very first job task was to edit edit the video, kind of mix it with the presentation and everything. And I'm just like, this is what I do. This is what I love to do. This is my passion. This is my hobby. And I'm like, I can't believe these people are paying me
I love it.
something that I love to do. And honestly, Rain, you know, like we already mentioned, I started my own business last year. So I was really, you know, hesitant about, man, I don't know if I want to go back to working for somebody else or what have you. There was a struggle there for a moment. But then when I realized, once I got there and I realized, wow, this is what I've been doing for myself over the past year or what have you. But, you know, I don't feel like I'm losing anything or giving anything up. If anything, it's enhanced my overall lifestyle. It's enhanced and made me more engaged with what I'm trying to do with my business. And the beauty is that even as part of the interview process, you know, the question came up several times, was like, so we know that you started your own business. That's awesome, you know, to see somebody, you know, take that initiative, even after being laid off or what have you. But they kept on asking the question, so will this be an issue working for someone else, you know, working a job and managing the business? And it seemed like every time I met with them, I had to reassure them, no, it's not going to be an issue, and so on and so forth. And the thing is that it's forced me to, so like I said, there's like an overlap as far as the things that I do in my job and the things that I'm doing within my business. And so things that I kind of put to the side with my business, like, I'll get to it.
Yep.
It's forcing me to go back to my business and start doing those things, because I'm like, okay, I'm doing it for these people. Why can't I do it for myself? And so it's really elevating my overall game as I move forward. And I'm excited, you know, because they could have said, you can't do both. We don't allow that or what have you, but they haven't said that at all. And they, you know, and I don't know. Well, you know, Rain, I'm going to share it with everybody else. So those that don't know, I actually use Rain as a reference when I had applied for this job role. And it took about 2.5 months for me to actually start working at this place. I went through 5 interviews, it was a very long process. And so in hindsight, and this all relates to what we're talking about, in hindsight, now I know why I had to go through so many interviews. It's because that culture is so strong that they didn't want to take the risk of
Right.
making a bad hire, which could negatively impact their work culture. So they kept on asking me in every single interview, hey, you know, if your business takes off and you start making a lot of money or what have you, will you leave this job?
Right.
And I had to reassure them. I was like, no, you
Right.
know, I won't do that. But I understand why. It's because they spend so much time in ensuring that there's like that corporate knowledge, that continuity of what they do and everything. And they don't want to bring somebody in that could potentially jeopardize that or disrupt that in any way. So in hindsight, I'm like, I get it. As I was going through that experience, I really didn't understand,
Right.
but now I do. And now that I'm there, I'm like, wow, so this is what it means to have a strong work culture where they do put people first, and also knowing that this business is consistently growing
Right.
as they continue to move forward. So they're not sacrificing profit, they're actually accelerating profits because they have such an engaged workforce.
Oh, I love that, Ray. I love that. I love that. Great awareness to find that out. So, what does it take to establish an employee-centered team workplace culture?
So absolutely, I think that's a great question. And so it kind of goes back to what I alluded to a few minutes ago about the CEO, the two founders of the company. So one is the CEO, one of the founders is the CEO of the company, and the other one is the chairman of the board. And in all honesty, Rain, the way I look at it, as far as being able to truly establish that culture, it has to start from the board of directors, and it has to trickle all the way down to the the frontline leader or the supervisor or what have you. It has to be that ingrained, and if it's not, it will be sacrificed along the way. And so, and the reason why I say that, so I've had jobs, and I'm sure you've had jobs where you had a fantastic leader that truly put people first, and they were truly committed. But unfortunately, the organization as a whole may not have been on that same page. And so a lot of times that leaders kind of really acting on their own without the full support of maybe their leader or the organization as a whole. So it's hard to sustain that as kind of being like that lone wolf that's doing the right thing. And so eventually that person's going to get burned out, they're going to leave, or they're just going to surrender and just give up. And that's unfortunate because there's a lot of talented leaders out there, but they may not be working in the best of environments the environment that truly appreciates that skill set, but also they may not be working in an environment that encourages that. And so the thing is that in order for, in my opinion, in order for an organization to truly thrive, it has to start from the top, where you give the leaders that freedom to truly put the people first, and you as the board of director or as the CEO or chairman of the board, you truly know that this is what's going to enable you to move forward and progress. By all means, encourage that. But if it's not there, and if you happen to be a leader that works in that organization that it just isn't present, it's going to be a battle every single day. It's going to be an uphill battle day in and day out. So I think a part of the equation is, as a leader, obviously you do want to create that environment for your team. And, if you happen to find an organization that embraces that and encourages that, then you are fortunate and you're blessed to be able to work in that type of environment. If not, you're really gonna have to put your armor on and be ready to fight some of those battles, because it's not easy at all. And I could give you a quick example. I know I'm talking.
I love it, Ray. No, it's good stuff.
Yeah, let me provide you a quick example. So I know in the introduction you mentioned how I had a team member that I was trying to get promoted. And so this is someone that was on my team that was actually on the verge of quitting the organization when I became the leader of that team. And I was like, hold on, give me a chance, to see if we could turn things around for you. And so, we partnered and we worked together to upgrade her job role. And so my immediate leader was on board with that. Okay. So that was a huge plus.
Right.
However, the senior leader for that function or that department was not on board. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize that that was the case. And so here you have this employee that's trying to reinsert herself as far as becoming engaged once again within the organization and really, pushing forward. And there I was trying to do the things behind the scenes that I could do to get her promoted with my leader's blessing and support. But we were working in that overall context in which that really wasn't the case as far as encouraging movement like that. At least for this individual, it wasn't the case. And so at first, my first attempt in trying to get her job upgraded and her promoted, we were shot down. It was just like we had done all this work and we're told no, this is the behavior that I've observed, and I don't think this person pretty much deserves that opportunity. And so talk about feeling defeated.
Right.
I had built up, so she was definitely in the know. I had built up her hopes. It built up my hopes. I was like, this is going to work. And to be shot down like that, it was just devastating. However, we regrouped and, we created a game plan and we tried it again and it finally went through. And it was a learning experience for both of us, really for me, because I realized before that, I was just like, results always speak. You can always lead results with results, and people were going to, bow down basically, which is obviously I've learned that that's not the case. It only speaks for half of it. And so that caused me to really kind of take a step back and understand that a person's brand or reputation also holds a lot of weight as well. So in the long run, it was growth for myself as well as growth for her. Even though it was disappointing initially, it still worked out on her behalf. However, just to kind of go back, there we were existing in an environment that didn't really put employees first. And, there I was, as well as my leader, trying to put employees first. And, it's an uphill battle. And honestly, that's when I started to really think about, I was like, long term, do I really see myself existing in this environment? And it wasn't like I'm done, but it was just a little notation in my brain saying, you know what, things may not be what you believe that they are, and things have definitely changed since when you started this job to where where I was at that point in time. So it was just a mental note. And obviously as things transpired, and last year when I was laid off, it was just like, okay, so yeah, they don't put people first, and it was a hard pill to swallow at first, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, it's business. You dust yourself off, you continue to move forward. And one thing that I've always purposed, even prior to that experience, I was like, you know what, no matter what I put my hands to, I'm always going to put others, above myself, as well as ensure that whatever I do, whether it's a business or whether I'm working for someone else, I'm going to ensure that I'm put into a position to help someone else grow, develop, and progress, within their respective space. So that's
great.
My long-winded response.
I love it, Ray. No, great example there. So you've mentioned a few already, but I have one more question, and that is, what are the benefits that a leader would receive by putting together this type of a culture?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a fantastic question. So, if you think about it, obviously, to me, the obvious one is that it increases engagement. So you think about, like, going back to the example with my employee, she was out the door, 1 foot out the door, but if you put employees first, or you put people first, it engages them, and it also it could potentially increase job satisfaction. So the more that you do as a leader to empower your team to make decisions and to execute on, on different plans that they might create, then it makes it more powerful. Like, you're giving the power to them, which you have to be humble to do that. You're yielding the power over to them, and you're allowing them to kind of set the tone and direction, at least as far as whatever it is that they're working on. And the reason why I personally believe that's so important is that when you start thinking about, lost my train of thought, forgive me for a second, Rain.
It's all right.
So it, I'm not gonna even, I don't remember. It'll come back to me.
Okay.
But basically, you're empowering people and it gives them the opportunity to kind of take the lead. And this is the point I was going to make. My firm belief is that everybody that comes to work, they're professionals. Okay.
Right.
So you're paying them as a professional. And you think about it, if they're experienced in this area, or maybe they're educated in this area, why wouldn't I treat them in that way?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I may have been the leader of that team, but these people are the specialists, the experts in their respective role. So why wouldn't I empower them to do those things, to take the lead, you know? And that's always been my mindset. I'm like, they're the experts. And so I'm going to put them in a position to do that. And I also want to ensure that whatever I can do as far as providing resources, support, or whatever it is, maybe block in some cases, and give them like that clear runway to just kind of take that leap and just run away with it. That's what I want. And so you talk about engagement, if somebody has that type of autonomy within their role, I guarantee you they will be engaged, they will remain, and they're going to do whatever it takes to ensure that they're successful as well as the overall team. So that's a huge benefit.
Yeah.
And then you think about, from an organizational perspective, obviously, if people are more engaged, if people are satisfied with what they do, then guess what? They're going to start putting the customers first. They're going to start honing in on those things that will lead to their success, the team's success, as well as the organization's success. And all those things that companies say that they're about,
right?
Their employees will do those things if we allow them to, and we kind of empower them to do those things. They will take you to what I would call, the promised land as it relates to achieving the objectives for the business and reaching those priorities. And then the last piece, as a leader, selfishly, it gives you more freedom to lead, where I'm not micromanaging, I'm not getting so caught up in the day-to-day stuff, but now I can kind of look at a broader perspective and, set and craft the overall vision for the team. I can think about the future. So, yes, we're in the spring of 2021. I can think 4 to 6 to even 12 months ahead of the time and kind of say, okay, so this is where we are today. This is where I believe that we should be. So, how is that going to impact us right now? What are some things that we can start doing or maybe continue to do or stop doing to ensure that we reach that point? But if you're so heads down and you're only focused on what's happening at that moment and you're micromanaging, you don't have the bandwidth or the time to be able to do that type of thinking or planning in advance. And so once again, guess what? That type of behavior, as far as heads down and only focusing on today, that encourages stagnation. So forget innovation, that's all out the window at that point, because you're only focused on that moment. But if you have that bandwidth, if you've empowered your team, and it opens you up to so much more as far as innovation, because now it's not about you. You're thinking long-term, big scale, but guess what? Your team members are going to be the ones that come up with the solutions that will be relevant and prevalent later on in time. So it just creates that level of synergy where everybody just kind of clicks and you feel like you're all on the same page. And I've experienced that several times, or at least, I would say a handful of times in my career. And it's such a dynamic feeling. And it's just like, I don't ever want to lose that.
Yeah.
And as you're going through that experience, it's like, I don't know how long this is going to last, but I know that this moment is a great moment. I'm going to do whatever I can to savor that moment. I've been a part of a team like that, and I've also led a team like that. And it's, as far as experiences that I've had professionally, that's some of the most memorable times that I can recall.
I love that, Ray. No, that's great. So again, as we go through this, what I really am hearing you saying is those handful of times you're talking about, there's a feeling that comes back when you even think about
This
it.
has been another leadership lesson from Ray's world.
I also agree.
This kind of learning whets your appetite.
These are
you
human
wanting
beings
for
we're
another
talking
helping
about,
of this
right?
kind of content.
And it's
Visit
simply
me
treating them with
Get
respect. How
Life
would
in
you like to be
Balance.
treated? How would you, so there are some pieces there that seem pretty obvious, but we got to get our egos out of the way as leaders, right? In order to make that happen.
That's easier said than done in some cases.
Absolutely. So Ray, thank you so much. I mean, this was more than I expected
Oh,
when I got
cool.
on. Not that more than I thought you would produce, but more than I expected. A great conversation. I
Oh,
appreciate you, my friend.
you're more than welcome. Anytime, Rain. I really appreciate you reaching out and even offering the opportunity to speak to you and your clients. So thank you so much.
You got it, my friend. You have a great day.
You do the same. You take care.
All right. This has been another leadership lesson from Rain's World. If this kind of learning whets your appetite, leaving you wanting for another helping of this kind of content, visit me at getlifeinbalance.com.